So today, or yesterday by the time you watch this, on the last day of May, May 31st, DezzieArts, that's D-E-Z-Z-I-E Arts, formerly Jacqueline Dorr, real name is Michelle, uploaded a bonus for all of us when it comes to the Melty Me series, and that is part 9. Now, the reason she did this is, well, last year, when she started this, she only posted the first 4 parts. And like a lot of people, myself and many others that follow her and enjoy her work, were hoping that she would probably bring out a bonus part, maybe a preview of the second installment, maybe a story that's on the side that takes place maybe in the future and all that, whatever the case may be. She didn't do that. Instead, she ended up giving us a Melty May edition of Metamorphosized to Malleability, which I was cool with. I was cool with that. However, this time around, she actually decided to let people know that she was already in the process of fleshing out ideas for the third installment. And in a post, she added a poll. And this poll was 56 to 56. This poll was 56% to 44%. And the 56% was in favor of her showing us the 9th part. Because she said she had already written the 9th part, which was basically, or which is basically the beginning of the third installment. And she asked if we'd like to see it. And 56%, if not more, said yes. So today, or yesterday, on the 31st, the last day of May, she decided to give us the 3rd part. Well, not the 3rd part, but the 3rd installment early with part 9. Kind of give us a sneak peek of what we could be in store for with the 3rd part, or the 3rd installment. And this 9th part, the sneak peek for 2023's Melty May installment of the Melty Me series, this 9th part was actually pretty interesting. One, because it actually gave us a little bit more story development and introduced us to some new players in the game. One of those new players is named Lindsay. And basically Lindsay is the owner of this. She's actually the owner of the largest chain of beauty and spa supply stores in the region. Basically the region, the area where Mei and Zahara live. And the business that this Lindsay Fasher, Lindsay Fasher is what it's called. It's a P-R-S-H-E. I mean, her name is Lindsay Fasher. Fasher. It's a P-H. It's P-R, I should say. Lindsay Fasher. It's a Lindsay P-R-A-S-H-N-E-R. But basically, I'll call her Lindsay P for short. But yeah, Lindsay P is the president and owner of basically this Shantae Beauty and Spa Corporation, which is, according to Zahara in the story, the largest. Like I said, she, according to Zahara in this 9th part, she is the, in preview, if you will, for the 2023 edition, she's the president and owner of the largest spa and beauty supply stores in the region, the area where both her and Mei live. And apparently, the reason she wants to talk to Zahara personally, not anybody else, is basically she wants a cut of what's going on. basically the way she's presented is kind of basically with the attitude of, she is older, well, not older, well, basically, yeah, she's described as being older, but she's also very, like, highfalutin. In other words, she thinks she's better than everybody else, and long story short, she feels like, not only does she feel like she's better than everybody else, but she feels like anybody that works for her or is partnered with her in some shape or form is beneath her. Even if she pays them well, shares revenue with them, she still looks at them as being beneath her. And that's kind of how Zahara describes her in a way. Not saying in that manner, script-wise as far as the story goes, but basically saying it, in a way that kind of gives off that idea. But anyway, getting back into the story, we get introduced to Lindsay right off the bat when she shows up at the Ultimate Bliss, which is Zahara's name for her business. And instead of meeting up with Zahara, like I just mentioned, instead she meets up with not Mei, but Mara. She meets up with Mara, the fused form of Mei and Zahara. And basically, after she leaves, Mara / Mei, because Mei kind of takes control of the fused form, looks at the business card that Lindsay left behind, Lindsay P, and wonders, okay, what is she talking about? What proposal is she talking about, Zahara? And Zahara, who is part of the fused form, makes her mouth materialize. That's kind of how Michelle describes it. She combines the word of oozed and material with materialized, basically. Zahara, with basically an exasperated sigh, frustrated sigh, has her mouth materialized over the fused form Mara's cleavage. And she basically explains to her, like I just mentioned, who Lindsay is. And that apparently word has gotten around about the new soak treatment, and she's been hounding Zahara, that being Lindsay P, she's been hounding Zahara to offer it at her locations in exchange for a cut of the revenue. And Zahara is basically saying, I'm not into that, no deal. But Lindsay's the kind of person that, as she puts it, doesn't take no for an answer. Now Mei, who's really evolved from at first being frightened by this in the first installment last year to what we're getting a taste of, getting a taste of, but what we got in the second installment, and basically what we're getting a taste of with the third installment with this preview in the 9th part. Mei kind of flirts with the idea of, maybe this will allow me to be in more in. Okay, hold on. But basically, Mei kind of flirts with the idea of, hey, maybe this will allow me to be in more than one place at once. And because it would be basically, Mei is saying that it would be it's tempting because she could be in more than one place at once. And she's just imagining the amount of energy she could collect gets her very excited, that being sexual energy from female clients. But yeah, Mei, like I said, showing how much she's evolved from when she first encountered this situation she now embraces full-heartedly. She's like, hey, maybe, with my mastery of this ability now, I can split myself into many pieces and, be in every single area at once. Just thinking about, and, she's saying that because she, as I said, she's imagining the amount of energy she could collect. Now, Zahara, basically slips. Basically, in response, Sahara, allows her mouth to kind of get reabsorbed, slip down into the shared cleavage, if you will. Her voice is distorting as it's described. Replying back, basically telling, Miyai that, well, you can't, which is why I told her no. And then she goes on to tell her that this means Zahara telling Miyai after saying that, she basically explains that she's also getting a little jealous of Miyai's feeding on the sexual energy of the clients. But then after that, she decides to allow her mouth to take up station over a certain personal bottom region of the female gender. And then she says, I guess in a tempting way, shall we continue where we left off, because there's still 15 minutes before the next appointment. And then she kind of extends her tongue, licking the area, the swollen area, if you know what I mean, to basically, get them back to finish what they had started before getting interrupted. Now, Lindsay, we do get focus on her. She goes back to her office, her regional office, of the Shante Beauty and Spa. And basically this is how she's described, not just by how Zahara kind of describes her and how she's presented, but this is why she's presented that way. Basically every employee who works for her notices that when she is not happy, they duck for cover, except for one middle-aged man seated behind a desk stationed outside the double doors, embezzled in bronze, emblazoned with her name. And he's basically described as an executive assistant. And he basically notices and pretty much says it, calls it out and says it. He pretty much tells her, oh, I guess the meeting didn't go well. And, Lindsay basically shows how, not just, stuck up she could be or anything, or how much, how much better she thinks she is of other people. But she replies by telling her executive assistant that, she was told that Zahara was with a client, but that her receptionist, as being Zahara's receptionist, as being the fused form of Mara, is a terrible liar. The assistant then comments, that he was surprised she didn't wait for him, given the effort that you placed on this particular acquisition. And Lindsay basically again showing, how she is towards people, or how people look at her. She's like, hey, I don't wait on people, people wait on me. But then she gets some good news. She gets news that she's got a reply from an individual that she asked the assistant made contact with, and this person has agreed to take the job. And Lindsay is happy about that, because after her daughter's bumbling and the incompetence of that private investigator, perhaps a real professional will get her what she wants. And we basically find out who that real professional is. Her name is Elizabeth. And she basically describes, I guess, Lindsay's request as her uncle, who Michelle gave my name to as the Uncle Brian, would have labeled small potatoes. But they are willing to cover her fee after the last job, and easy payday would be a welcome respite, or basically a welcome reprise. Basically, Elizabeth's taking this job, being the one that got hired by Lindsay, to do whatever she's got to do. Feels like, hey, basically describes her last job being, a lot harder than she expected, and that this next one will be an easy pay. This one being more of an easy payday would be a welcome, reprieve, if you will. And she's the one that got hired by Lindsay, because she says, plus I get a free spa day. So, anyway, hold on. Now it does describe that she is, somewhat of an attractive girl, but not, the kind that would stand up, or stand out in a crowd unless she had the right makeup and clothes. But the way she is makes her perfect for her profession. And basically, it does describe that she's been setting aside a healthy percentage of earnings for retirement, and that she's still chaffed at the notion of leaving the game just as she was approaching the pinnacle. She says it basically describes her thinking that if she was a man, she might be able to squeeze in a few more years, but time simply was not on her side. So anyway, we do get an idea of, the fact that Lindsay, being this highfalutin, I'm better than everybody else and I'll pay any kind of price I have to get what I want, aunt, is hiring Elizabeth, who has this profession, to make herself look, a lot younger than what she currently is, with the right makeup and clothes and stuff, and supplies. She's hiring this Elizabeth girl to infiltrate, if you will, the ultimate bliss, to find out what is so great about this new treatment that Zahara is offering the clients. Now, we do get a name for the treatment finally. They call Mia and Zahara call it the. It's kind of a play on retroactive, but it's called the restorative soak. And we find this out because she walks into the room, I guess, locks the door, and she's talking to the substance in the bath scene, which is Mia. She's swirling her finger around in the fluid, and basically commenting that one of the best parts of being goo is working all day and not getting sore muscles, which Mia has her mouth material losing, if you will, near Zahara's finger, agreeing with that, but saying, true, you still get hungry. And then a hand, basically, Mia materializes a hand, or materializes a hand, cupping Zahara's chin in and sharing her sexual energy that she had collected. Now Zahara kind of comments that maybe they should wait till they get home. Mia says, I heard you lock the door, then kind of extends her mouth on a rubbery tenderol and says there's no reason why they shouldn't have some fun now. And she nibbles on her girlfriend's ear to the point that she feels it soften, and she starts sucking in her friend's gooness, if you will, ooziness, into her, and it's described as you can kind of see like a dark fluid barely visible as it's siphoned down the slender, translucent neck. She then basically, this being Mia, materializes 3 more boneless arms to find to find sensitive spots on Zahara's body to caress and fondle, and that with that, Zahara's head completely melts and collapses with a gurgling moan, which allows Mia to start slipping more aggressively, on her girlfriend's lost cohesion, basically her ooziness, and to the point that Mia enlarges her mouth to take in great gulps and basically slurp down and swallow her melted girlfriend whole. And she then basically retracts her appendages back into her body, and then all is quiet. Honestly, if I was Michelle, I'll be honest with you, if I was Michelle writing that part, I would have added in, just for comedic effect, I would have added in, the description of a big bubble that's suddenly popping and you hear this big burp, and then maybe Mia just, jokingly goes, she was tasty as usual, and then that's it. But instead of doing that, she just describes the room going quiet and everything, and that the only movement was an occasional ripple running across the otherwise placid olive surface. So yeah, she basically sucks in her friend like she's done before, like she's a gooey snack as it's described, and then basically retracting her gooey appendages, they just remain as a quiet, placid surface of olive ooze. But over time, the illusion of the serenity is broken when a river of chocolate basically carves a ravine in the olive from one side of the basin to the other, and tributaries branch out from the main ravine, sending streams to explore the, as she describes it, the pristine slushy land. She describes Mei as being an olive continent that quivers and shudders as new chocolate lakes and seas filled its topography. She describes Mei creating and becoming olive mountains that push their way upward only to be transformed into volcanoes when thick chocolate magma bursts through the pink tinted peaks. You kind of can guess what those mountains are. She acknowledges that the base of the squat pedestal supporting the basin creaked a little bit as earthquakes rocked the living landscape, and that olive and chocolate, basically the skin tones of both Mei and Sahara, were crashing together over and over till they blended into an entirely new color. That a set of luscious plump lips rode the chaotic waves that combined basically a set of luscious plump lips rode the chaotic waves, and that both women's voices combined into a singular squealing ecstasy, and then afterwards tranquility basically settled back over the area, basically the vista, where it went back to being just calm. The arms, the lips sinking back into the ooze until about a half hour later, till they re-emerged. And by re-emerging, they brought a lot of the ooze with them and began to merge and basically began to mold together crafty toned arms, bountiful bosoms, as they would say, full hips, meaty thighs, bubbly rears, and that the end result was Mara stepping out of the tub, but as soon as she hits the floor, she gets a ripple from head to toe, and she's like, that makes her kind of moan in joy, and then she decides, maybe we need to rest a bit longer, and she crawls back, and basically she jumps, if not crawls back into the tub to soften once more, to melt once more. So yeah, the story, again, this ninth part, this bonus part, which gives us an idea of what we're expecting next year, in May 2023, I thought was a great addition, a great ninth part. It again, like I said, it definitely shows us that we're going to have a little bit of more story development going on. But the story that she's going with, obviously, is one we've seen before, and it does work depending on the situation. And with this situation, I think it'll definitely work, because the focus of the story is in the third installment. Of what the focus of the story is going to be in the third installment is this Lindsay P, who is this highfalutin person who's the president and owner of this Stanton Beauty and Spa Corporation that's the biggest in all the land, or the region, obviously is envious at the fact that everybody is talking about the ultimate bliss and their special treatment, that special free service that they give. And she's the kind of person that's like, well, if I can't beat it, I want to own it, or I want to have a part of it. And that's why she's offering, as much as she can to get Zahara to say, okay, I'll incorporate it into your businesses as well. And the reason Zahara is saying no to it is basically because the fact that the treatment is her friend, and that they have yet to master, or her friend has yet to master, the ability to, split in two. basically split in 2 or 3 or whatever to be in multiple places at once. So she's not going for that. But also the reason Zahara's not going for it, obviously, is she sees the true intention by Lindsay and what Lindsay wants to do. Like I said, she sees the true intention of who Lindsay is and what Lindsay wants to do. And Lindsay, lives up to that because she's going as far as to hire somebody, this Elizabeth, to kind of get her what she wants, get her the answers, maybe even get her that treatment so she can have it as her own. And speaking of Elizabeth, I think Elizabeth is going to have a turnaround in this third installment. I think Elizabeth, just the way she's described, I think she's going to have a change of heart. Like, she's going to see how well she's being treated and everything. And she does seem like the kind of character that will accidentally, like maybe she'll forget something and she'll walk back in. As soon as she walks in, she'll see exactly, what the treatment's true purpose is, or who is, really the treatment that people are talking about. And I think what will happen is, instead of being mad and upset, Mia and Zahara will be, very, Mia and Zahara will be very understanding, to the point that they'll be like, well, you know what, if you want to step away from this, because she does want to retire eventually, if you want to step away from this, and everything, why don't you join us, and we'll let you kind of have a go at what we've been doing. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Elizabeth is going to join their side. She's probably going to reveal, when she sees how nice and everything they've been treating her, and even after walking in on them accidentally or whatever, she's going to probably spill the beans. She'll probably spill the beans saying Lindsay hired her, but, because they treated her so nice, she can't turn on them. She can't, turn them in. She can't, steal from them or, take the information that she's learned back to Lindsay. And I think out of appreciation for that, and honesty out of that, I think what will happen, my opinion, is, like I said, they'll accept her apology. They'll even accept her maybe as a new friend and say, hey, if you want to step away from that business that you've been doing and have a little fun with a new venture, why don't you join us? And I think the end result is we'll go from a twosome to a threesome. And not just a twosome, romance, but a threesome romance, with even Elizabeth getting in the act, and even her getting a chance to go oozy and all that, to the point that we might get not just a 3-way ooze NFSW, intimate fest, if you will, very intimate fest. But I think Elizabeth will, describe it as she is, will be quick to understand what she's capable of doing if she gets that opportunity. And I could also see them doing a 3-way fusion where they combine all the names, and instead of Mara, we get Imara, and Lindsay will show up, and she'll be greeted by Imara, and not be none the wiser. She will not be none the wiser. But again, that's just me speculating. I could be wrong, but I like the direction of the story that we're getting here, where you have it, again, it's a story that's been utilized before, but it's a great story to utilize, where you have this highfalutin corporate person that thinks they're better than everybody else, thinks their business is better than everybody else's, and now they're suddenly getting that business taken away from them because this small little insignificant spa and beauty place is offering a mysteriously new treatment that's free, that everybody is just, from word of mouth, throwing out there and saying, no, you got to try this, you got to do this, you got to do that. So I like that we're going in that story direction, and maybe Lindsay will find out the truth, whether it's through Elizabeth or it's through other means. Maybe she'll find out the truth and be like, maybe she'll kind of relax, like, wait a minute, so the treatment, Zahara, is your best friend? Or is your girlfriend? She's the reason? Maybe she'll get confused and be like, oh, you know what, maybe, again, maybe she'll be like, maybe she'll be disgusted by it and be like, you know what, forget about the offer. I don't want to do business with you ever, because what you're doing is weird and everything. No way, no thank you. Or there's a good chance that maybe she'll have a change of heart and she'll realize, hey, maybe if I do this with myself, or maybe if I choose certain people to do it with, it might bring in some business or something. Again, mere speculating on my part, but I do like the fact that we're now bringing in these new characters, and one of them basically being someone that doesn't like the fact that someone that they feel is beneath them is outdoing them, as far as being in the same business, giving them by giving off this free treatment and everything. So it's really so I like that. I really do. I also like the fact that in this story they did start to get a little bit more creative. I do like that. I like the fact that when though even at work they decide to fuse into Mara, and Zahara decides to take this opportunity to give a certain bottom region of Maras, I should say, some special attention, while Mara is, posing as a receptionist, in between, as a receptionist, greeting customers, potential customers, and all that, while in between, having a little bit of attention given to her fused form, thanks to Zahara's lips, if you know what I mean. I also like at the end when they do get into the gooey intimacy in the bad scene, that they get very creative. I like the fact that, Mii sometimes just loves to be a pool of goo and act like nothing else, and I like the fact that when they got intimate here, they became very creative to where, after she, basically ate or slipped up her girlfriend, that she remained as a steel pool of oozy liquid with only a few ripples in between her. So I like that, and I like the fact that then they started to get creative where Zahara made her presence known, and she decided to create a ravine, a water ravine, a new river ravine, with little streams jutting out all over the, as Michelle described it, the oozy continent. Creating new lakes and seas, and then I like the fact that in response, Mii created mountains out of her upper region, if you will, but only for because they were mixing together, only for basically Zahara to burst right through them and turn them into volcanoes, if you know what I mean. So I like that they got creative in this intimateness. And it kind of does play into one thing I mentioned in the predictions, on how, they need to shapeshift into a variety of things. Whether it's in a semi-solid state and then later on in a solid state. I like the fact that it kind of plays into that, and hopefully we'll see more. Hopefully we'll see more and everything. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Looking forward to the next to the next installment. Again, I like the addition of the new characters, and we'll just see where they go from there. But what do you guys think about the story? What did you think of the story? What did you think of the second installment overall for 2022? And what are you looking forward to in 2023 with the Melty Mii installment? Let me know down below. Comment if you like. Live chat during the premiere. Super thanks are welcome after the video has premiered. And until next time, guys, I will talk to you all later. But yeah, check out the story series. I will link it below in the description, maybe even in the little card at the top of the video. Check it out. You will not